Let me just see. Oh, wait. Yeah, there we go. Welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout. I am your host, Naroki5. I am doing another solo episode tonight. It's nobody seems to be available. I suspect you're going to be seeing me do a few more of these because I was already doing mostly solo episodes on with the Naroki 5 live stream, which, by the way, I will hopefully be getting back to. It's been a rather unstable last couple of it's been pretty unstable last couple of months here for me in terms of my work and everything, and it's been really kind of difficult for me to get anything going. So welcome to the Red Pill Nation Hangout. I am your single and solitary host, Naroki5. Site news, okay, yes, was very happy to break 800 a couple of weeks ago. Probably, I expect I'm going to probably get past 8. I think it was 868 was the number of followers I had on my YouTube account when some a-hole decided that he was going to be okay with taking me down. I suspect I'm going to be passing that number in terms of my campaign here, probably at some point, either late July, early August. Also, at some point later on this year, I had all of the channels that I had now. Probably see me surpass my totals. And by the way, it only took me about 2.5 years to get there to surpass the numbers that I had when I was just doing YouTube, and like all of the other channels that I have were just relatively small and cute and little insignificant. And speaking of which, in order of total number of subs I have, you can find me on BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, mgtow TV, Brighteon, and of course YouTube. I somehow managed to get 60 subs on YouTube. I don't know how the hell I managed to do that, because I am in no way promoting anything in my YouTube feed at all. I am also at Facebook, Minds, Gab, MeWe, Getter, and TLB Talks, although I haven't been posting up there very much lately. I might just have to return to doing that at some point. So what are the topics tonight? And I promise this time I'll say them out loud without having to forget that I had muted my microphone. All right. Topic number 1, social media app Blue Sky is slowly fading out. Topic number 2, new Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney immediately introduces a new version of the Online Harms Act. 3, Donald Trump tortures president of South Africa over white farming genocide. Topic number 4, Caitlin Clarke is once again under attack by black racists. Topic number 5, Epstein didn't commit suicide. FBI confirms this. Topic number 6, owner of OnlyFans attempting to fire sale his website in light of the emergence of AI. That one might be very interesting to get into. So, happy and proud to have been to be part of this. Yes, for those of you who don't know, that is my Patreon down below there. Feel free to subscribe to that. I think it's probably time to bite the bullet and get a subscribe star. The aim here, I'm going to be doing this until I die or find something better to do. So if I could make a living just solely doing this, trust me, I would. Got some personal reservations and so forth that I have to get past, and I had a big revelation tonight at my 12-step meeting, which I'm going to probably have to go and journal about tomorrow morning, but not going to be doing it right now because I got a show to do. So without any further ado, and this time, like I said, without the microphone, being muted. That is like the fourth time now that I have forgotten to unmute my microphone. Wow. I'm really neglectful, especially when I'm doing the solo episodes. I really tend to forget to do that. But yeah, let me just do this again here, and we will reset on Blue Sky. Okay, so topic number 1. Blue Sky social media app is slowly fading out. Okay, now here was this Blue Sky became a big ass deal when after Trump won the election last year. And I can remember very, very specifically, on Threads in particular, because I don't have a Blue Sky account. I definitely don't have a Mastodon account. I mean, why the hell would I even? My personal view on dealing with leftists is like, I take the Yuri Bezmenov approach to it. It's like there's no point in trying to discuss or argue with these individuals. They're not going to change their minds. What you do is you appeal to the people in the middle, or the people that are willing to listen. You don't try to convince people who are dogmatic, because, I mean, that's just not going to happen. So there's no point in going over there and creating a fuss, because all you're basically doing is trolling. And trust me, I get an on the men's rights and the Red Pill site and the mgtow sites that I belong to. We get enough trolls, and of course on the Alberta independent sites, there's definitely more than a few trolls perusing around on those sites right now. As a matter of fact, last episode, I took a nice big chunk out of Jan Arden, who decided that she was going to use her post to launch an attack against Albertans. But that's neither here nor there. This topic is about Blue Sky. So yeah, like, I remember specifically on Threads, right? Around that time, I was like looking at them, and it was like all of these people going, yeah, we're all leaving Twitter for Blue Sky, we're all leaving Twitter for X, for Blue Sky, and it's going to be the end of Twitter. And all the corporate tech press was making a big deal about, yeah, we're going to take over on Blue Sky, and we're going to run, and Twitter's going to just disappear, whatever. We have 1.5 million people dropping out. And my response at that time, because I actually checked. Now, 1.5 million sounds like a lot of people. That's a whole city. That's a fairly significantly sized city, number of people in total. An actual total percentage of versus the total number of users on Twitter and total number of active users on Twitter, it represented 0.025%, or 1/4% of the total Twitter base. Like, not even a drop in the bucket. And when a couple people got really angry when I pointed this out, and somebody said, well, just you wait. Well, there was just a couple of problems. And this is the same thing that Mastodon and Threads are also running into. By the way, it qualifies as a minor miracle that Threads hasn't actually self-destructed at this point. I don't bother with Threads anymore. It's just a left-wing echo chamber. And again, there's no point in trying to get into discussions with people who are dogmatic, because it's like, no matter what you try to say to them to convince them that they're wrong, they're not going to listen. And it's, just like, yeah, there's just not much of a point in doing it. The issue with Blue Sky, and there's been a couple of there's been a couple of points, which of course the mainstream media has been quite happy to ignore when it comes to Blue Sky, is just like Mastodon. There's a huge amount of pedos that were on Blue Sky. By the way, and I should have uploaded an actual symbol of it. The butterfly, if you go to the FBI database and type in butterfly pedo symbol, you will notice that the butterfly is actually one of the symbols that a certain group of people will use to identify themselves as pedophiles. One of the hidden symbols. And the symbol for Blue Sky is a butterfly. Now, that could be a coincidence, but then again, based on some of the stuff that I've been seeing in the background, in particular, what happened with Balenciaga and that multi-line triangle that appeared at the Trudeau Foundation, and just all of that really weird stuff that happened with Mayfair, and of course Comet Ping Pong Pizza, and I could go on and on and on and on and on, right? And with consistency, this stuff it lines itself up in the background, and they just figured, but I thought I would point that out for you. That should be one of those, that should make me think a little bit. Maybe I should think a little bit about that before I make any more decisions. But yeah, YouTube, this particular show was going to be the one, and literally it was like they were making I gotta point this out, man. They were making a big ass deal about this, like a huge effing deal about this. They were making a big deal about the fact that this Blue Sky was going to be the app that took down Twitter or X. What I don't think they counted, and this is the same thing again happened with Threads and happened with Mastodon, is that with these two groups, is like, first of all, man, nobody in the merry middle, like the people that I try to reach, none of those people went over. Not only that, but what also happened here was the fact that guys like the Quartering, and I can't remember somebody else, they went over to Blue Sky, opened up accounts, and they literally lost their accounts within a day. So what was going, and there was a huge censorship push, booting people off of Blue Sky. So just like Mastodon, and to a lesser extent with Threads, because Threads does actually have some back and forth, but with Mastodon, those two particular sites became echo chambers, and because they were echo chambers, they couldn't bring in the same commercial revenue, even though more than likely if BlackRock had been able to generate income for those three sites, they would have been able. BlackRock absolutely would have gone to bat for them and done it. The whole issue was that they couldn't do it, and it's just, knowing what that crowd is like, hypersensitive, victim industrial complex, conformity to the point of the people who were in there, and Ethan Klein found this out the hard way, to the point where if you're not adhering completely, like for instance support of Gaza and Palestine right now, right? If you're not fully in support of that, you're basically thrown under the bus, right? And Ethan Klein found that out the hard way. And it's, and it's like, so they've got these individuals on there who will yell and scream and boot anybody off that does not have the same political, social, and cultural opinion that they do. And they're not going to get anybody in the middle because they're an echo chamber, and they're blocking people from even centrists and say leftists like Tim Pool. And a lot of people keep saying, well, Tim Pool's right wing. I've seen the political compass for Tim Pool. Like, Tim Pool is almost far left. He's also deeply libertarian, but he's far left, right? And it's like, a lot of people tend to forget that about good old Timmy Pool, right? Like, I mean, they just assume he's right wing. And it's like, I mean, I could say I've seen the political compass test for Tim Pool. He is not right wing. Like, if by any stretch of the imagination is he right wing. So the whole thing. So, yeah, you have a very limited audience. You have a very limited way of generating revenue. And, of course, you have this strict you have the strict conformity on particularly Mastodon and Blue Sky. And, you also have the creeps and pedos who also ran over there as well. And surprise, surprise, Blue Sky is starting to fall apart. Now, I mean, I don't cheer on this, and trust me, I would have loved to have gone over, started a Blue Sky account. I just don't really feel like you can't reason with people like this. You don't waste your time trying to get people like this to see the light. What you do is you go to the people who are not like that, who are willing to listen, and more or less what you got to do is you just basically stand at point. And when you do that, you probably do a better job than trying to talk your face off, trying to get this crowd to convert. So am I surprised that Blue Sky is starting to already disintegrate? No, I'm not. Like I said earlier, people were saying right at the start that a lot of people were like saying that Threads would have been lucky to get out of 2024, and they did manage to get out of 2024, barely. But I mean, it's like, yeah, same basic thing goes on there, right? Like, despite all of the hype that the mainstream media gave this, despite all of the slamming of Elon Musk, despite a lot of things, yeah, Blue Sky is going down. And I'm going to just say this again. For those of you who don't know, go look up pedo symbol, FBI database, butterfly, and just take a look at the main. Hold on a second here. Let me just bring up. Let's just see if I've got a sim before. There it is right there. Yeah. Just a quick look at that. Okay, again, like I'm saying, that could be a coincidence, but given the propensity of what this crowd is like and how they like to hide shit in plain sight, you have to consider the possibility that it's not. And with that, let me just check and see. No, nobody's in the chat. I've actually got, I've got 6 now. I don't know how the hell I managed 6, but yep, that concludes this particular topic. Let's move on to topic number 2 here, which is Mark Carney. Okay, so Mark Carney won the prime ministership under very, very, very suspicious circumstances, by the way. And he said a bunch of stuff, and he said he wasn't going to be like Trudeau. But I mean, I've already seen what his cabinet is for instance, he brought back Stefan Guilbeault, for instance, an absolute. Like he was the one that probably did more damage between Alberta and the Canadian government than even Justin Trudeau did. And they've gone and made him culture minister. He also made Gregor Johnson, I believe it was Gregor Johnson. Yeah, they made Gregor Johnson the guy who was he was the mayor of Vancouver for the last 10 years. So basically, he was the mayor that was running the show in Vancouver when Vancouver went from one of the best, most beautiful, most livable cities in the world, and it's not even in the top 10 anymore. He was the mayor. He was the one who stood back and did nothing as the real estate prices shot up through the roof. He was also the one, and I know this because I'm from Vancouver, and when I talked to my relatives about moving back there, which I have done at a couple points in time, my relatives were all telling me it's not the city that it used to be in. So yeah, he really botched the cabinet. And then, of course, he also ran a very rather vociferous anti-Trump campaign and how he was going to stand up to Trump and how he was going to hold the line against him or whatever. So he goes down to Washington, D.C. to meet with Trump. And I mean, don't get me wrong, okay? Like, I'm definitely not a Carney fan. I'm not really on Team Trump either. Trump did rub his face in it, but I mean, Carney in no way held his ground, which is kind of weird because I mean, Trump had literally said at the start, that he would have preferred to deal with Carney because, I mean, again, for one thing, him and Carney actually do have some type of an economic connection to each other, although it's kind of like one or two steps removed. But I mean, Carney did absolutely nothing in terms of, being a hard-nosed negotiator with Donald Trump. But what really blew my mind, and this is like literally the first bill that's up to bat in the House, is a reintroduction of the Online Harms Act, which Justin Trudeau was attempting to get through and would have probably gotten through had he not been forced to resign. This bill would already have been passed into law. First thing Carney does is that he brings this bill back for a vote. Now, Carney does not have a majority in the House. He is going to have to either rely on the Bloc or the NDP to get this bill passed. The New Democrat Party will probably play along with it. They will probably also ask for party status. I don't know whether Carney's going to give it to him or not. By the way, the NDP is down to like 9 seats. At one point, they had 102. The NDP and the Greens, by the way, Jagmeet Singh knowingly destroyed Jagmeet Singh knowingly destroyed the NDP's chances of getting any type of an election win in place, and the Greens withdrew probably over 100 members running in various seats in Canada to guarantee that people would vote Liberal. So yeah, there's that to consider. Now, the Online Harms Act is very similar to bills that have already been passed in Australia, that have been passed in New Zealand, and of course, we've already heard stories. What is it? Somewhere between 40, around 40 people a day are being arrested in Great Britain for mean tweets. I have seen, and we have featured this in the past on Red Pill Nation Hangout, where we've put up videos of individuals, like literally like 4 or 5 cops showing up at somebody's house over tweet. And there's the reason why they're doing that is obvious. They want people to see this. They want people to be afraid. They want people to be intimidated and not talk out. And all of the Five Eyes countries, which was Canada, the United States, Great Britain, New Zealand, and Australia, have all introduced versions of this bill. The one in the United States didn't get past the House. The ones in Australia and New Zealand, I believe the ones in Australia and New Zealand and Great Britain got passed. The one in Canada would have gotten passed again had Justin Trudeau stayed in, but he is not. He's not the prime minister anymore. For which we can be, well, look who we got it to replace him. Not again, the way this bill is written and the way it was written in Britain, the way it was written in Australia, and the way it was written in New Zealand, and even the way the bill was kind of centered when it went into the House, and it was I believe it was a very close vote in the House. The way the bill was worded, it was designed to be as vague and as open to interpretation as possible, so that what would be qualified as hate speech could fall under whatever the government decided hate speech is. Now, my next question on this is, of all the bills that Carney wants to pass, why is he so keen on doing this one first? And the only thing that immediately springs to mind when we're talking about Carney is the fact that he is, where I live in Alberta, there is a very, very serious push for Alberta to separate from the country, from Canada. Yeah, we are perfect, and we are perfectly legally within our rights to do that. The mainstream media, and when I get to South Africa, you'll find out what a joke the mainstream media is. The mainstream media is just an absolute joke, and they have been, but they don't have, and the fact that Trump got elected actually proves that they don't have the same degree of influence and soft power that they used to have. And that is even more so in Canada, because CBC and CTV are absolute lost causes. Global kinda still is a little bit independent, but I mean, during the election, they tried really, really hard to prevent Rebel News from participating in the debate. And after the French language debate, they actually didn't have during the French language debate, Carney decided to not have a media scrum after the English language debate, because he'd been made to look like a fool by both Poliev and the leader of the Bloc Québécois during the French language debate. And it's like, if they had, and also the fact that Rebel News intentionally went to the front of the line, so Carney had to answer questions from Rebel immediately. The whole thing just kind of fell apart. So the reason why he's doing this is that, I mean, he's got, and I've got to point this out, if Alberta leaves Canada, the country of Canada is effectively screwed. There's been attempts by people in the media and people on social media to try to minimize the economic contribution that Alberta makes to Canada in the form of equalization payments. There's been people, especially in the mainstream media, that have tried to go, oh, well, Alberta's economy isn't that big. And then they go into, yes, Ontario, Quebec, and BC have more people, but they're kind of like, they have more people, but their economies, in particular the one in Quebec, is just constantly running in the red. But Ontario and BC are they're a little bit above the line, whereas Alberta produces way more in terms of the proportion of the population than either BC or Ontario does. So it makes the lion's share of the contribution to the other provinces in order to do this thing. That's like national pricing, for instance, which is a for the Americans that are listening, that sounds kind of like a communistic sort of thing or a socialist type of thing. Where it was maybe I can't remember who brought it in. It might have been Pierre Trudeau may have brought it in, where there's the prices in Newfoundland and the prices in Victoria for various items like a tank of gas or whatever, the prices stay consistent from one side of the country to the other. So yeah, Alberta has been with a lot of resources has been kind of been forced to pay extra over the years for stuff. And again, I didn't mind helping out the rest of the country, right? The issue comes down to though is like when are we going to actually get some type of reward, in particular under Justin? Like Justin did everything humanly possible to make sure that that Alberta didn't thrive. Because again, under Ralph Klein, for instance, when Alberta had a real economic boom, like Jean Chrétien had had an extremely difficult time trying to get Alberta to go along with anything, because Alberta basically had the money to just basically give, and did, by the way, give Jean Chrétien, the Prime Minister of Canada, the finger a couple of times. And, well, they just could not allow that to happen again. And they made sure it didn't happen again. So yeah, and there has been, well, there was a Trans-Canada pipeline, which I worked on, but that was, some of that oil is for import. The overwhelming majority of it, though, was being sent, that was a pipeline that ran from Edmonton to Vancouver. A lot of that oil and gas was being sent, that pipeline was being sent down to kind of ease the gas prices, which, by the way, especially in Victoria, which is even worse, but in Vancouver, the price of gas is like, well, even with national pricing, like our premium is less expensive than their regular in Vancouver. That tells you all you really need to know about this particular situation. So, yeah, very, very disturbing that Mark Carney would bring this particular bill, and basically he's doing that to try to like muzzle the pro-separatist press. That's the immediate gain, is that he can. And I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to try to sneak in some white supremacists or whatever, or some actual far right, which, by the way, is still out there, people into into the mix, and then use this Online Harms Act to crack down on the separatist media in Alberta under the guise of quote unquote preventing hate speech. Yes, Carney is the type of guy to do that. I have heard Carney's name. Whitney Webb has mentioned Mark Carney a number of times before he became prime minister. So Carney is absolutely a globalist. I have seen videos of him at the WF conferences in Davos. Yeah, he's a full-on globalist. And I got to point out something and this is just me because I actually live in Alberta. It's like, if there's certain parts of the rest of the country that don't like what Alberta is doing, well, gee, that's too bad. You voted for this. You bought into the anti-Trump rhetoric. You bought into, and of course, you got to point out that Trump is not completely innocent on this either. He probably should have kept his mouth shut, but he didn't. But I mean, yet people in the rest of the country that are angry that Alberta is on the verge of leaving, well, gee, that's too bad. They fucking voted for it. You know what? And it's like, you know, my personal hope is that maybe Daniel Smith will invoke notwithstanding on the new version of the online harms bill. I don't know specifically what number of bill it has, but the fact that Mark Carney would reintroduce this bill right out the gate is low key indication that the federal government is in a real serious panic mode about Alberta separation and about the need to keep the country together, because there's potentially 4 other provinces that could jump ship on this as well. BC, Saskatchewan, Quebec, and Newfoundland are all also, and Quebec's had a separatist movement for a while. In fact, there's a separatist party known as the Bloc Québécois that sits in the House of Commons in Canada, kind of like the Scottish National Party over in Great Britain. Same essential concept. And, so, I mean, this is not anything new. It's not my fault that there are that people in Canada were too stupid to figure this out. And that's really all I got to say about this one. Let me just check the comments. Oh, look at that. There's still no comments. There never usually is any comments on this. So I am going to go move on to the next topic here, which is oh, wow. Okay. This one. Come on. What's going on here? Okay, edit. All right. So in Donald Trump's first term, he also at one point took a hard line on the government of South Africa in regards to some of the racist policies that the South African government had. The South African government backed down. Now, I don't know what happened, but apparently the new South African president decided that it was time to visit Donald Trump in Washington, D.C. Before we even get started, I mean, South Africa's got a really nasty crime problem. Like, it makes the one in some of the worst cities in North America look almost comical by comparison. There's definitely a lot more race-based crime in South Africa than there is in the United States. South Africa is a hot mess. There's no other way to describe it except it's a hot mess. There's the head of the opposition. I can't remember. I think his name is Ramaphosa or something like that. He literally had a soccer stadium full of people where they were like singing, "Kill the white farmer, kill the Boer," and it's like broadcast like live on air for everyone to see. And in the past, this might have actually worked. He went in, he visited Donald Trump, and of course, right, he immediately denies that this is going on. Trump, though, was not going to have any of that. And what he did is he lowered the lights and he actually showed the president of South Africa what was going on. And yeah, it wasn't the president of South Africa's greatest moment. What really stood out to me, though, because there had also been probably about 60 Boer Afrikaner farmers that had been given political asylum in the United States a couple weeks before this happened. And the mainstream media and Democrats like literally were up in arms. Well, how come you're the only? It's like, well, because it's like it. And Marco Rubio was sitting there, and he like saying it's like we determine who is a refugee and who's not. So how come you don't? Or how come you're not doing this with people down in South America? And it's like, yeah, well, actually we do, but just as long as they come in legally. And yeah, it was like I mean, I saw the video. Like, I've seen the video, right? Like a soccer stadium, 100,000 plus people in Africa, and you have the most power, I think the head of the opposition, like literally singing up front, kill the white farmer, kill the Boer. And the mainstream media literally lied and said that this wasn't happening. Not Tucker Carlson. I can't remember his name. Not Tucker Carlson, the guy on CNN. I can't. He's got two last names as well. I can't remember his name. ABC News, though, was the absolute worst about this. They literally on their Twitter page posted up an article where they said alleged genocide going on. And of course, right when they did that, and this is what I was talking about when I was talking about how Carney needs to censor what is going on with the Alberta Separatist Press, because it's like, even though the mainstream media in Canada is bought and paid for by the Liberal government, the Liberals subsidize the press here in Canada. The situation is that, I mean, there's enough independent media, in particular in Alberta, that he needs to muzzle it. And it was like ABC News, which, by the way, is owned by BlackRock, I should point out, literally said alleged, and they got torn apart. The name of that. Hold on a second. Let me just figure out who the hell that guy is. CNN host. Yeah, let me just take a look at this. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I actually at one time used to watch this guy, but I cannot remember the name of the guys. I cannot remember the guy's name to save my life. Where the hell is he? Oh, there he is. And of course, it doesn't give me his name. It just gives me his face. Oh, for God's sakes, come on. Anderson Cooper, that's his name. Anderson Cooper. And Anderson Cooper literally had the nerve to say alleged when it came to what was going on. And while I am definitely not a fan of Lawrence Southern, bottom line here is that Lawrence Southern did do a full documentary series about what was going on with the murder of the white farmers in South Africa. And oh, by the way, they also did this in Rhodesia, and it didn't really go Zimbabwe, Rhodesia, and it didn't really go particularly well for them after all the white farmers fled there. There was also an issue here with not just the hypocrisy of the mainstream media, and not just the fact that the Democrats were being willfully ignorant about what was going on here. You also had multiple people, African Americans, like literally encouraging, uh saying that if, like, openly talking about doing harm to these refugees. Now, this is I'm going to kind of go off on a tangent here because something really weird happened. I was listening to Macroaggressions earlier this week, and Charlie Robinson does not go on Instagram or Facebook very much. But one of the things that he pointed out very recently about Instagram and particularly Facebook is that they really seem to want a lot of people to be getting angry at African Americans. And if you go over to the Facebook profile, it's like you will notice that. And then I didn't really put two and two together until Charlie Robinson. I guess it's like when you're on Facebook every day, you just don't notice it. Which, by the way, if you're thinking that you're somehow immune to manipulation, like, the social media companies are really good at this, right? Once, however, when you get a guy like Charlie Robinson who doesn't spend a lot of time on social media coming in and pointing this out, and then I'm looking at it now, and it was like, yeah, and particularly with Carmelo Anthony, like all of the blacks that, when this is going on, like, it would always seem to be that you would always get the most foul, most disgusting, most heinous African Americans, and their tweets would be the ones that would get prominently featured. And now I know for a fact that most African Americans and most blacks in North America are not like that. But I mean, I didn't put two and two together on this until somebody who isn't on social media very much pointed this out to me. If you're an African American and you're listening to this, you need to stop. You need to take a step back and stop and consider that maybe you're being manipulated, because it's like, yeah, there's a lot of ways they can figure out what your likes and dislikes are. And, you know, just don't buy into this if you're whites. You know, just keep in mind here that you judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. That's something that I'm going to have to really point out here. Mostly because the whole issue here is mostly because it's sort of like, I mean, now that it's been pointed out, now that's been pointed out to me, like, I see it now, and it's like, it is really, I'm going to say this. I mean, I don't have that many listeners right now, but I'm going to have to say this, right? Like, take a look at if you're on Facebook or you're on Instagram or you're on Threads or whatever, go take a look at your feed. Like, notice that there seems to be a lot of the feed right now seems to really be leaning in this direction. And the next question is why? Well, I can think of one reason in particular right now. They want to get somebody who's white pissed off enough that he's going to go out and do something stupid, or they're going to, or you know, again, right? Like, when you get those individuals, like the ones who are really posting up those foul comments on Carmelo Anthony's GoFundMe page, and featuring those like it was a badge of honor, right? Like, when you see that, you gotta start to look at that and go, like, yeah, why is this stuff appearing at the front of my page? It's like it's being posted up front because there's individuals that want you to attempt to start to see African Americans as a bunch of white hating fucking bigots. Even though, again, most black Americans, and just like most whites, are not racist either. But yeah, let's just get into the next one here, because this is but yeah, very bad showing for the president of South Africa. Don't know what he was thinking when he denied that was going on, because there is overwhelm. And again, this has also happened with with Anderson Cooper, and this has definitely happened with ABC News when they tried to deny this was going on. Yeah, they got absolutely destroyed, and justifiably so, I should point out. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic here. Topic number 4. Okay, come on. Yeah, there's a lot of racism on the show tonight. It was that kind of a week, I suspect. Caitlin Clarke is... Oh, Rearson, hi there. Okay, yes, I will allow you to join. Hello, Rearson. Rearson? Okay, well, until Rearson can somehow unmute himself, because I can't seem to unmute him here. Rearson is now on board. Say hello to Rearson. But yeah, we're going to start with Caitlin Clarke here. Caitlin Clarke is a generational talent. I would put her in the same category as, say, Connor Bedard or Connor McDavid, or I believe there was another player who got drafted this year or a couple of years ago. Oh, hey, Rearson, welcome on board.
Hello! Can you hear me now?
I can hear you very clearly now. Yeah, you missed the mark. You missed the Mark Carney thing, dude. You totally missed it.
Well, okay, what was that?
New Canadian Prime Minister immediately introduces a new version of the Online Harms Act.
Well,
You missed topic number 2. Yeah, you missed topic number 2.
Did that include making sure that Gilles Beau was also?
Yeah, I covered. Yeah. Oh yeah, Minister of Culture. Yep, I covered that.
Fuck. Here we go. Well, okay. All I'm going to say, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again, is that the people that, I use the term very loosely because I just don't believe in democracy anymore because it doesn't fucking work. But anyway, the people that voted in Carney are going to have to wake up, give their heads a shake, and actually wake up. But it's going to be people like my mom who are happy to watch the news and are happy to be programmed, who can't. She knows that my mother, for example, knows that things are wrong, but she can't get out of the loop that she's in. And I'm not going to bother to try to educate her because I know that it won't work on her. So, but that's perfectly fine. I mean, again, as I've said before, time and time again, is that, going back to Star Wars, Carrie Fisher to Peter Cushing, the more you tighten your grip, the more star systems are going to slip through your fingers. And it will happen, but again, the correspondence between the two of us is that I still love the opinion that whatever happens with with Carney being where he is or what he is that Alberta separate Alberta independence. I won't say separation, but Alberta independence is going to happen. It's just going to things might be stalled for a bit. Who knows? But it's going to happen, and it's going to be. I'm not going to laugh. Um, it will happen. It's just that there are a lot of people that just don't see what in the world is going on. So,
Yeah, OnlyFans is a topic tonight, by the way.
good God. Okay.
But anyway, yep. So well, I'll just get back into the Caitlin Clarke. So yeah, I was describing Caitlin Clarke is a generational talent, and she got drafted first overall by the WNBA, and
God.
like participation and people watching the sport and whatever, thanks to Caitlin Clarke, went up. Now the problem is that Caitlin Clarke is a straight white woman in a sport dominated by pissed off, angry black lesbians.
Dun dun
Uh,
dun.
so there's a particular, and she has a rival with this woman going all the way back to when she was back in Iowa when she was winning titles. Angel Reese, at one point last year, actually, not only did she she just basically went up to Kate Clarke and just like pushed her. Right now, did Caitlin Clarke take a dive? Yeah, maybe. But what ended up happening here is that Caitlin Clarke returned the favor to Angel Reese this week. Basically planted Angel Reese on her ass. Angel Reese just absolutely lost her shit. Angel Reese is absolutely in no, she's not even she's not even at the same level as Caitlin Clarke. Especially not particularly good at shooting the ball. She's noted for being a rebounder, but the thing is, about half the rebounds she gets are her own misses. So, yeah, that's kind of funny. But I mean, again, right? It blew up, and like again, right? You had the usual crowd getting
Sorry.
really.
I'm sorry, but she's her own rebound master. It's like what? Is that a statement on the women that have broken up with her and she's she's looking for something new?
I
Oh,
don't know, but
good
yeah, no,
Lord.
she got yeah, so she dived, and of course,
Is that
hold on.
is that the rebound queen in the background there?
Yeah, that's the rebound queen in the background. This is back
Oh,
when they
good.
were in the NCAA. I
Mm.
decided to bring that photo back up there as opposed to moving on to another blue sky photo. Yeah, you missed the blue sky stuff too, by the way. The And people were jumping all over Caitlin Clarke for doing this, and of course, they completely missed the fact out that Angel Reese like blatantly shoved Caitlin Clarke down at one point last year, and that Caitlin Clarke decided to go play over in Europe rather than play in the SW like the women's summer leagues in the United States because she doesn't like the attention. I mean, it just boggles my mind. They have a
No,
generational talent.
no,
Sorry,
no, no, no. I'm my apologies for stepping here and interrupting you on this one, but no, we've talked about this before. Like this was like the last time I was on. White don't make white and pale is stale. Whether it's white and male is stale, but in this case, they're the people that are going to be pushing this, that are going to be pushing Caitlyn down, are going to be either white people and they're racist against themselves, or it's going to be the black African American, whatever you want to call it, victim industrial complex. We've talked about this already before. So for me, this is not surprising. Don't get me wrong. I don't want any of this to happen to anyone, regardless of their skin color. And we've talked about this time and time and time again, is that it's racism until it's against a white person, and then, well, who cares?
Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it just blows my mind because it's
Uh,
like, you know, the NHL does not do this with Connor Bedard. They just don't. You know, the NBA doesn't because they San Antonio drafted a franchise player here. I can't remember the guy's name because I don't follow the NBA. So I don't want to say fuck the NBA, but I just don't follow the NBA. Um, you know, like you just don't see the NHL. Like if somebody in the NHL, for instance, took a shot at, say, Connor Bedard, I mean, like literally half the team in Chicago. And keep in mind, Chicago doesn't. The Blackhawks are not a particularly good team this year. Oh, by the way, Edmonton won tonight.
yeah, I saw that they're up 2 games to 1 going into
Yeah,
game 4.
yeah,
Hopefully,
yeah.
hopefully.
I think Florida's going to win tomorrow. But yeah, again, right? You didn't see the NHL doing this with either Sidney Crosby or Connor McDavid. I mean, they've got a marketable talent in the WNBA, and instead of like going, yeah, hey, we should be promoting the hell out of her,
She
they're
just
letting
she just happens to be white, and so she's expendable.
she's expendable. It's sort of like, yeah, haven't you been losing? Like the WNBA has lost money. They didn't. They almost broke even last year, and that can almost exclusively be put on Caitlin Clarke's shoulders, right? Like they almost broke even. I mean, like with a
Uh,
little bit of hype and a little bit more active promotion,
mhm.
like they might have actually turned a profit, but I mean they just you know
It's
they
women's sports. Who the fuck cares? Women just
yeah, of course it's women's sports. I mean the WNA the women's WPHL is also probably not making a whole lot of money. I don't I think it was Minnesota that won the women's championship. I can't remember. I'm going to have to actually go look now.
oh,
But I'm going to turn this over to you while I actually find out who won the women's professional league this year.
I was gonna say before Bill Burr lost his fucking balls, because he certainly has. I mean, enough of his comedy routine was all about the WNBA, and who the fuck cares? And yeah, honestly, who the fuck cares? It's the only time that I would have any possible interest in women's sports is going to be either tennis or golf, because they can wear the mini skirts and you can see a nice set of legs, and that's about it.
Paige Spiranak and boobs, but Paige Spiranak's not actually a professional golfer. She almost got there, but I mean, she decided to okay, hold on a second here. It's the WPHL. Let's take a look. I don't know who the. I don't even. I barely even care who's.
Well, the second last hotel that I worked at in Motel Village in Calgary, we did have the Canadian women's hockey team stay at the hotel. And pretty much all of them, I would not have recognized them if they came up and bit me, except for Kaylee Wickenheiser. That's it. That's the only person that I recognized.
Oh, Haley Wickenheiser's just like yeah. Haley
She's a
Wickenheiser's just.
she's a butch. I can't.
Well, I mean, she's okay. Well, I mean, yeah, she's built. she's if she was a professional, she'd been a male. She would have been one of those players like Kale, like not Kale McCarr, Nathan McKinnon, that would just be bullying her, bullying his that's the thing about Nathan McKinnon. The way his speed is just like he's just so powerful. It's almost impossible to stop him. He's not as fast as McDavid,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean he's got more power behind him. That's basically what Wickenheiser was.
Yeah.
She's that would be the comparison, but Nathan McKinnon and Haley Wickenheiser.
Yeah.
But anyway, hold on a second. I'm going to have to go.
Okay. Well, you continue doing what you're doing, but I can say as well
Keep
too.
talking.
Yeah. Well, I met the woman that was working at the Home Depot on 16th Ave, French Canadian woman, and I immediately recognized who she was. And this is after the women won the 2008 Olympic gold, and I, if you were to give me enough time, like I could basically remember what I was doing at that point in time when I was watching watching them win, and I had said to her as such as well, and she was very much down to earth, and I'm humbled, I guess is maybe about the best way to say it.
Yeah, okay, it was Minnesota, the Minnesota Frost, who won the only championship. I thought I kind of figured it was Minnesota, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
Continue.
yeah. So, I've had some exposure indirectly with athletes. Um, the hotel that I worked at, we regularly had other CFL teams stay overnight and whatever else in practice. I mean, I remember we had the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and they were checking out, and they lost their game, and I was oblivious, like completely bloody freaking oblivious. Enact to enact the on online harms bill, online harms act to amend the Canadian code. Yeah, whatever. It's just more a form of censorship, and no doubt they're going to be pushing that onto Alberta with the oil sand, tar sands, whatever you want to call it. But leave
Yeah.
that crap alone.
Yeah,
Anyway.
anyway, yeah, going back to Caitlin Clarke here, yeah.
Mm. Well, it's no fucking different than Star Wars. They've got the goose that can lay the golden eggs, and they're going to kill the goose to see if they can actually make their own eggs. So, to me, you've got something. Yeah, it doesn't fit the narrative, but at the end of the day, the black population in America currently is about 14. It might have gone up. Well, it it would probably be up to about 16, 17, maybe even 20% if the family unit was all together, and if they didn't have Planned Parenthood, and if there weren't all of those masculine black women out there blasting on social media. So,
Well, here was the thing about that I was discussing this before you got in because I was also covering the prime minister, the president of South Africa,
oh,
and there was a guy. Oh yeah, you missed that one too. The Charlie Robinson is a YouTube, and not a YouTube. Actually, he does have a YouTube channel, but I mean, he is also I primarily listen to him on Spotify,
okay.
and he does not spend a lot of time on social media.
Mm-hmm.
And he pointed out something very, very weird about what's happened with on particular Instagram, and especially on Facebook. Because right after I mean, even before they had sent over those Boer farmers, the Afrikaner refugees were allowed to come into the United States.
Yeah.
He was on there, and he was like noticing because he's not on Facebook or Instagram very much, and he was like going. And V would have actually had a field day with this tonight if he'd actually been on. He
Thank
was like
God.
pointing out, well, actually in a good way, because it's like Charlie Robinson was pointing out, it's like they really want us to really hate black people right now.
I
Because
don't. Yeah.
what's going on here is, like, for instance, like when those Africana refugees came over,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
The There were actual, and they actually popped up in my feed too, where you had actual African Americans talking about actually physically doing fucking harm to the
Oh yeah.
Africana
Mm.
refugees. And it was
Yeah.
like they would pop up a lot. And it's like, I didn't put two and two together on this until Charlie Robinson pointed this out, because most black Americans are not fucking, in North America, are not like that.
No. No.
And you saw that with Carmelo Anthony too. The way they, like, all of those fucking actual white hate fucking blacks all got their comments placed on the feed, right? And it's
Mhm.
sort of like, well, who's benefiting from this? And it's like, it's pretty obvious. But anyway, getting back to Caitlin Clarke.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, they have someone that can play, and I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, America is still well enough over 50% white. So you want, under ideal circumstances, you're gonna want someone that can bring in the crowds, someone that will be who's talented. I mean, I'm kind of thinking. I can't say that she's going to be like the Larry Bird of the WNBA in the sense that she's the first to show up, the last to leave, and whatever else. I don't know a damn thing about this woman, and I'll be honest, I don't really care. But if this whole WNBA thing is all one big push to get more black people to watch, how successful has it been? Not terribly, but you know, correcting a leftist on their current strategy that doesn't work and to tell them and to show them the facts, they're going to lose their shit over it.
I mean, I gotta point out, Brittany Griner, that fucking African American. I don't know whether she's a woman or a man, but that one that was in
Oh,
Russian jail.
yeah,
She
yeah, yeah.
plays in the WNBA as well,
Well, I would
right?
hope so.
Um,
So, my apologies for putting it that way, but yeah, I would hope that she's going to be playing in the WNBA because, ugh. Anyway,
but yeah, here's what ultimately comes down to is that Caitlin Clarke is a straight white woman playing in a. This is a quote that I've heard a couple places. A straight white woman playing in a league that's known for black lesbians.
okay, so she doesn't munch the carpet and they hate her for it. Well,
Wouldn't surprise me.
color me shocked. But then again, I've heard enough. I've heard of bonding, shall we say, within like the NFL, and it's you drop your pants and you take it up the ass. So I wouldn't be if that's the case for white straight expected sports like the NFL. I mean, really, what's to stop, if such a word could be used? What's to stop the WNBA from being filled with their rosters for athletes that are just nothing but carpet munchers?
Mm.
I would apologize for that, but I'm not going to. So too fucking bad. You know my style.
Yeah, I know your style. It's pretty much my style too. Anyway, I think we actually went away. We went, not beat up, but I think we did this one.
We were beating off this dead horse. Yeah, let's go to the next
Yeah,
one.
let's go on to the next one. This one is very. I
What's
think
that?
we might be on this one for this next one for a while.
All right,
Um,
which is
Jeffrey Epstein did kill himself.
he did.
Well, okay, here let me just put the timestamp on this.
Okay. Yeah, you do what you have to do.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so here's the situation. Um, Cash Patel and what the hell's his name? Dan Bongino and
Yeah.
whatever. They took a look at the file. They took a very close look at the file and they looked at the events around it and they basically came out and said, it's like, yeah, Epstein killed himself. I'm sorry. I mean, you're free to disagree with what we're saying, but from where we're sitting, Epstein killed himself, period.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
it was sort of like, really? And it was like it pissed a few people off, and then it was sort of like, and then of course, right, the situation came down to, and this was the immediate reaction from a few of the people, the social content creators. One of them was like saying, okay, there's two possibilities here: either Cash Patel and Dan Bongino, who are like literally on screen and both said this at the same time. There's two possibilities here: either A, they're lying.
Nice tits.
Yeah, then when we get to OnlyFans, that's gonna be that.
Yeah.
Um, so they're either lying or they're telling the truth, and it was sort of like if they're lying,
Wow.
which by the way isn't out of the realm of possibility with because this is the government, or
Yeah.
they were fed false information. Which, by the way, if they did that, Cash Patel would probably get that individual removed. If they're lying, it will come out eventually. If they're telling the truth, though, then you have to look at another option here because if Epstein committed, and I'm leaning toward, I actually kind of leaning more to the Epstein actually did kill himself. There's a possibility that Epstein was allowed to suicide himself, aka, they drugged the guards, forced them to fall asleep, the cameras were out, you know a couple people sent messages because it is possible to get messages in and out of prison, and Epstein was more or less told, it's like, yeah, like, you're gonna fucking kill yourself or we're gonna kill you, and we're gonna do it in a really ugly way. And Epstein committed suicide, but it was more along the lines of, well, I think the Japanese call it seppuku, right? As opposed, because the option for Epstein was that he was not gonna see the inside of a courtroom, and the and he was allowed a road, a pathway to killing himself was provided for him. And that is
Mm.
definitely a serious possibility here when we're talking about Epstein. That Epstein wasn't killed, but I mean he was given the opportunity to do it to himself, because if he didn't do it to himself, somebody was going to provide
Do
the
do it
he
for him.
it
Yeah.
was going to provide the services for him, which is definitely in the realm of possibility, and definitely something that I could definitely see people in the government doing. Because, like I say, again, you missed the episode. Like I say, I did a private episode on Hillary Clinton, on the Clinton body count, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I've been well aware of the Hillary body count as well too. Okay.
yeah,
Um.
okay. So yeah, the whole thing was is that, I mean, yeah, he kill himself? Yeah, if he did kill himself, it was because he was allowed to suicide himself, right? And that
Yeah.
is something that is definitely up near the top of the realm of possibility when we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein now,
Mhm.
because it's like, yeah, you could see that happening. Um, what's really weird about this is while all this is going on, P. Diddy was allowed to go to trial. What they're doing with P. Diddy is rather different. They're intentionally, they're taking him to trial, but it looks like they're intentionally botching the prosecution to allow him to get out, and basically the speculation on Diddy is that they just threw Diddy in jail because certain interests inside the government are more interested in the blackmail material that Diddy had and they want to use it themselves, which is why they're botching the prosecution on him now. But yeah, they're either lying or they're telling the truth. I'm
I
leaning in towards Cash Patel and Dan Bongino telling the truth, just because I mean Dan Bongino has kind of built a reputation on being honest. So it's like, yeah, again, though, politics is a very strange beast indeed. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Ruerson.
I'm going to be calling bullshit on that one. I'm sorry. But the ear print, the profile, whatever you want to call it, of Epstein before and after doesn't match. And my ear to your ear are going to be different. And listening to Dr. Dave Janda when it happened, and he was, no, he could very well be, I don't know, controlled opposition, but I don't believe that he is. But he basically said that there's a certain bone in the throat or the neck. I don't remember where it is. Given the standard materials that Epstein would have been wearing at the time, it would have been basically impossible for him to arkanside himself. I'll just say it as that. And